what's the point in surviving if we have to kill everything that makes it so wonderful?
Survival games often like to isolate the player, usually by throwing them into a remote setting with few people around, if any. They often add extra challenges by including mechanics like hunger, thirst, and exhaustion, sometimes enhanced by weather and body temperature mechanics. These types of games are meant to make the player feel alone. So today, let's look at some isolating survival games. Number 1, The Long Dark. Hinterland's game about a pilot stranded in the Canadian wilderness has gained a reputation for its intense survival mechanics. While some of these are downplayed in story mode, the game's survival mode is built around the player being completely alone. They don't even give the player the hope of being rescued, just a basic directive of keep going until you die. Isolation is naturally a big part of The Long Dark, where the player has to rely entirely on themselves to make decisions and try to stall their imminent demise just a little longer. Number 2, Prey for the Gods. This indie adventure game wastes no time making the protagonist feel alone. From the start, she is stranded on a frozen island in a world that is already dying. The only ally she has is a mysterious wolf that may or may not be acting in her best interests. Staying warm and finding food are both important to gameplay, but the isolation factor is only increased as she explores the island and finds bodies of past occupants and visitors, as well as journals chronicling their tragic experiences. The closest things to living people are undead soldiers, ghosts, and half-dead giants, all whom have a chance of killing her if the cold doesn't do it first. Number 3, Stranded Deep. Beam Team's intense open world begins with the player character surviving a plane crash only to be stranded somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Aquatic survival becomes an essential. To have any chance of lasting long enough to escape, players will need to find food, build shelter on islands, and navigate treacherous waters. It can be done in single or multiplayer modes, but either way they're stranded in the middle of the ocean and cut off from the rest of the world. Number 4, Subnautica. Unknown Worlds is indie adventure centered on an astronaut stranded in an alien ocean after his ship crashes. That alone is already a daunting enough prospect, not helped by being the only one left from that ship. The closest thing protagonist Riley Robinson can get to human allies is the occasional pre-recorded message of other crew members' doomed survival efforts, sporadic one-way transmissions from home, and an automated voice computer. Many creatures live under the sea in Subnautica, but some are far more frightening than the rest. They don't even clearly mark objectives, making it hard to figure out what the player needs to do. The isolation factor also goes one step further with a big reveal after the first rescue attempt fails that something on the planet itself is actively blocking his escape. Number 5, Void Train. This strange, early access indie game sees the player as a customizable engineer who wanders into a scientific experiment that opens a portal into another dimension. Gameplay mixes base management in the form of running and building the titular train with survival and exploration. The Void itself is a very isolating environment where the player runs along extensive tracks through seemingly empty space. The only humans around are the mysterious Blue Light Corporation, an authoritarian faction that will shoot the player on sight, and the only allies that the player has is a strange gooey creature called Raflemo. The fact that several tracks lead through very large skeletal remains also seems to hint that something very nasty is hidden somewhere in the game. So that was our list for some of the most isolating survival games out there, and we hope you enjoyed.